One of the ways I found you, obviously, I think you made your brother's documentary, right? I mean, that was huge. Is that
Bigger,
how?
stronger, faster.
Is that how you guys? Is that how it started to escalate from there? I mean, from the backside.
Yeah, I think so. I think my brother Chris Bell, making the film Bigger, Stronger, Faster, I think really helped kind of like launch a career for me. When I went to trade shows and stuff like that at that time, I was going to trade shows because I invented the Sling Shot. Not too short after the movie got circulating really well, because the movie came out in the movie theater.
What year
probably
was
in
that?
like '07 or something like that, maybe '08.
Yeah.
So that's a while back now, but
I cannot believe it made the movie. I was in Iraq, so I didn't see that. That's
Yeah.
07. Yeah.
it's
Legit.
Yeah, it was really cool, and it was like in select theaters and things like that. But
Yeah.
it was in the movie theater, and then it got picked up, and I think it was, I don't even remember at the time, maybe some DVDs and so forth. But then it got like on YouTube and some other things like that, and that's when it really started kind of gaining traction and gaining popularity. So when I go to a trade show, some people knew me from powerlifting, and then other people knew me from the movie.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you were already working on the all of the things on the back end, like just because of your powerlifting background, right?
The powerlifting,
The Sling Shot and everything.
background made my mind just so entrenched with lifting and with trying to figure out like high level performance, in addition to how do you maximize it? How do I get better at this? So, I was an understudy of Louis Simmons, West Side Barbell, one of the most famous gyms, one of the most famous coaches of all time, one of the most hardcore looking gyms anyone's really ever seen. Some incredibly strong athletes, 1,000-pound squats, 800-pound bench presses, and 800-pound deadlifts were very, very common in that place. This is back when people were wearing squat suits and bench shirts and things like that. But Louis, he developed a really cool system, and Louis was an inventor, and I really admired that a lot. I admired not only that, but I admired his lifestyle. I remember going over to his house, and he would just be talking on the phone for half hour here, hour there. He'd be like, oh, hold on a second. And he'd pick up the phone and go, West Side.
Oh, really? He's running his whole gym from that.
Yeah, he'd pick up the phone, and then some dude, would ask a question about how to get their bench better, and I would say, who is that? And you figure, okay, this guy's time is probably pretty precious. That's probably somebody famous. Maybe it's a strength coach. Maybe
Sure.
it's an NFL athlete. He's like, I don't know.
Really?
He's like just someone who called. And they used to call because he put his phone number at the end of every article when he used to write for Powerlifting USA. So I was really taken back by his lifestyle, and his lifestyle was created because he created the reverse hyper.
Yep.
And he had a couple other inventions. He was an inventor. He had some United States patents. And so I always found that to be amazing. And so that's, my mind was maybe one day, I wasn't really thinking one day I can make a product. It wasn't that deliberate or literal, but that sure was kind of playing in the background.
That's awesome. And how long were you at that gym? Where is that gym?
West Side Barbell is located in Columbus, Ohio. I was there for a year, but it felt like I was there for many years because the training is brutal. It's very difficult. And I just learned a lot. The conjugate system is something that was later adopted by CrossFit, actually. And some of the principles of CrossFit, kind of show me a guy that can run a 6-minute mile, and I'll show you a guy that can't squat 500 pounds, and vice versa. Show me a guy that squats 500 pounds. And so West Side, they don't extend it out like that because they didn't care about fitness. They just cared about strength.
Right.
But Louis' whole thing was, if we constantly vary the exercise, we keep hitting things from many different angles, we don't end up with some of the same problems that other people run into when they do periodization. Because when you do periodization, it's you start over and you're lifting lighter, and then you rebuild. And as you're doing that, you're losing some of that top end strength that you had. You are building and you are working towards it, but at any moment, if there was a contest, you wouldn't be at your best. You would say, hey, give me
That makes sense.
Give me 3 months, bro.
Yeah, because you'd have to start working your way back up, right?
Yeah, give me 3 months, bro, and I'll come back here and I'll whip your ass on the bench press or push-ups or whatever we'd be competing at. But with West Side, Louis was like, nah. He's like, we're always at 95%. We're always
So they're ready to go.
We're always almost right there. He's like, maybe 1 week to recover and then we can compete.
Wow.
So I always thought that was really cool. And a lot of that happened because there was so much exercise variation. You know, one week you might do a good morning, the next week you might do a squat, and the next week you might do a deadlift. But Louis was looking at the good morning, the squat, and the deadlift all as things that could be things that promote your squat and your deadlift, like all those exercises and all those variations, because you wouldn't really actually do a regular squat. It'd actually be really rare. A regular paused bench press, as you do in a powerlifting meet, completely abnormal to do. So we would bench press, but we would bench press off of boards, or we would bench press with bands, or we would squat with chains, or we'd do good mornings with bands or chains. And all those things just create such a variation that it kind of allows you're basically trying to attack stuff from as many different angles as you can, rather than just trying to attack stuff just from, I guess, one angle, and just from like just squatting, which we know that just squatting, and we know that just benching, we know that just deadlifting and stuff. Look, that can be insanely effective too. So I'm not trying to say that that's
standard,
not effective.
right, exactly.
That works awesome. But the conjugate system is really cool, and it has its place as well.
Well, it does make sense, because I think of I never did powerlifting, but I think of from like a pull-up standpoint, right? Some people that get in the military or want to learn how to do a pull-up, you know, you say, well, just start trying to do a pull-up and do assisted pull-ups. But I also think of like other things that could strengthen you in order to be able to do a pull-up that would probably make it easier for you to get that first pull-up.
You're 100% dead on. So it would be counterintuitive to think if I did a weighted pull-up that would be beneficial, right? But if you kind of think about it a little bit more, let's just say you're halfway decent at pull-ups.
Right.
Somebody that's like just can't do anything
Trying to
at
go
all,
from 5 to 25.
them holding, having extra weight on their body is not a good idea. But if someone that could do like 2 or 3 pull-ups, maybe having a little bit of weight could be something that could help them break through. So let's say they put on like a dip belt or something like that, and they put 10 pounds. They strap 10 pounds to themselves. It's not a lot of weight.
Right.
They strap 10 pounds to themselves, and maybe rather than a pull up this way, maybe they do more like a chin up,
right,
where you get more bicep in there, and there's like a little bit of extra leverage. I think most people can do a little bit more.
As a kid, I started doing chin-ups, right? Chin-ups were the first thing I learned, and then when I learned to do overhand pull-ups, it was a hell of a lot harder.
100%. So you do the easier thing, but then maybe you're also holding yourself there, and maybe you just hold yourself, like stand up on a box, grab onto the chin-up bar, have your chin, slightly over the thing, and just do an ISO and just hold.
Right.
And say, I'm going to hold this for 5 seconds.
Hard. It's
and
actually
then maybe
hard.
Go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 till your hands are, all the way extended overhead. And maybe you do that a bunch of times in that workout, in between doing some bench pressing or dumbbell bench, in between some of your assistance exercises for the day that isn't going to run interference with that exercise. So you want an opposing muscle group, or a muscle group that has like calves or something, that has absolutely nothing to do with your lat strength. But you'd be surprised at how effective and how strong that could get you. And then somebody might say, hey, well, what did you do for your pull-ups? And you'd be like, well, I kind of started with these holds, these isometric holds.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of variation can really be helpful. Something like pull downs and rows and stuff, they all can sort of assist, but they're not going to assist a ton, because we know tons of people that can do lat pull downs all day, but they can't pull their bodies up.
That is, why do you think that is? Like, what would you tell somebody that was in that situation?
It's your strength to weight ratio, which is actually, like, in my opinion, one of the most critical things that doesn't get talked about that much. Your strength to weight ratio, your ability to propel your body through space, your ability to handle your own body weight. I think it's often referred to as relative strength. So your strength relative to your own body weight. Somebody that's 300 pounds, you might be like, all right, well, that guy's out. He can't do pull-ups.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, hold on a second. He might be, because he might be tremendously strong. It could be the 300-pound person that you're talking about could be somebody like Eddie Hall, who just has so much capacity and so much strength that
Strongest man.
I have no idea, what his pull-ups would be.
Sure.
But I'd be surprised if he wasn't, halfway decent at them. And a lot of people that are heavy, that are still strong, can move their body weight around pretty good. That relative strength, I think, is something that is a really big factor when you talk about longevity, and you talk about people being able to be around, not only be around for a long time, but really thrive. Because
you're talking about as a human existence, not necessarily in the competitive nature, right?
As just someone just existing, because What is getting up and down off the floor? What is going up and down
Relative
the stairs?
strength. Right.
It's all relative strength. If I imagine you went to go upstairs, like this giant flight of stairs, and I could snap my fingers and make you weigh 15% less.
Oh gosh. Yep.
Those 100 flights of stairs that I just
Yeah.
told you to go up, you're like, all right, this is going to be kind of fun. But if I make you weigh 15% more,
Yep.
now you're still going to be able to do it, but you're going to be like, holy crap, that just totally
I have a real life scenario where I've done this. So in Iraq, we went to the dam. There's a dam, it's called Haditha Dam, and it was built by the Russians back in the day. And it's on the Euphrates River. And so we would park our Humvees at the bottom, and we'd have to carry all our kit and all our machine guns and everything back up to where we were
least
living.
100 pounds
And,
of stuff, probably.
yeah. And like a normal, and a stairwell on a dam, you know, it's people don't realize it's probably 30 stories. And so we're rucking, and we'd have to go up the side, or we'd go up the stairs, and maybe our bunk was at like story 15 or like, you know, level 15. But I mean, I was in great shape. But you put all that gear on us, and you put it up there, and I'm dying. Like, your legs are just blown out at floor 10.
Military is a great example. I mean,
Firefighters, too.
you know, people going into the military normally are going in decent condition, and they're also going into the military not excessively heavy. There's some
Right.
people that might go in, they're a little heavier, right? But for the most part, it's like dudes that are probably, you know, most of the guys are probably under 200 pounds. Or
Yeah, true.
Or
And there's
as they
some
go
big
through-
guys, right? Like, naturally big guys. But
And there's people that are 6'3" and 6'4" that are like
there's
a
also
little
people that are
heavier,
like
so-
5'2".
Yeah, and it's got to be, you know, the heavier that you are, though. I don't know anything about the military, but from what I've heard, you kind of take the biggest guys, and you're like, those guys are probably not going to be here towards the end.
It's harder.
These guys in the middle are probably going to survive pretty good, and some of these little skinny guys that we're trying to make fun of, they'll probably hang on the easiest.
Yeah, when it comes to physical fitness side, right?
Right.
And then it gets more dynamic when, like, you're doing, what do they do? What's their job skill?
Right.
So, yeah, good point. So when you were training at Louis' gym, were you younger? Were you married? Because, like, base that off of the timeline with the documentary.
Yeah, let's see. I mean, my son just turned, excuse me, my son just turned 22 today. Today's his birthday.
Oh, dang, man. I appreciate you being here on his birthday. That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah, he was giving me shit. He's like, I'll just be out having my birthday by myself. I was like, no, when I come back, we're going to go out. We're going to party. We're going to have some fun.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, he's 22, so he was born in Columbus, Ohio, and so that's how I can kind of keep track of that. So
Yeah.
22 years ago, I was training at Westside Barbell, learning from Louis Simmons, and I would call it like getting Louis'd, because Louis would, he'd just spend so much time with me, but he would be like, oh, you got to try this. Oh, you got to try that. And by the time I got to try this, I got to try that, I was
How are you
getting,
supposed to know what to do?
well, I was also getting destroyed, you know?
Oh,
It was
true.
like, oh, try this glute ham raise, try this. But the exercises were, you know, so many of the exercises that you see today, you know, where the people are doing Nordics and all these different things. Like, we were doing a lot of that stuff at that time. So, yeah, I was, you know, 25, around 25, 26 years old.
Yeah.
Just really kind of getting my feet wet. I was not a name. Nobody knew who I was at the time. My wife, we all lived in Columbus, Ohio for like a year and a half. And then I ended up moving to kind of the Sacramento area. That's where my wife is from. And that's where my second powerlifting career started, because I powerlifted when I was a kid.
Okay.
And I've always been good at it, but I actually, it's kind of like somebody that knows how to like paint or draw really well, or play music really well. For some reason, they don't want to do it. I didn't want to do it. I wanted to like play football and do other things and do like real sports. You know?
Yeah.
And I found out that I was not nearly as good at those sports as I was powerlifting.
But in the
So-
documentary, you're coaching football, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm coaching football. I always loved football a lot. So, yeah, I started coaching some football and started getting involved locally with some gyms and some powerlifters and stuff like that. And that's kind of when my strength started to take off, because I knew that I wasn't going to be able to build the kind of strength that I was looking for by myself. That was the first thing. One of the first things I learned at Westside Barbell was that it's a team effort. You know, you need a squad around you. You know, they say in the military, like when the bullets are flying and everything, I hear people I'm always like, man, I suck. I'd be out of there. You know, I wouldn't be good in these situations. But sometimes people say, no, man, actually, you would stay there like a lot of other people because you're staying there for the guy next to you.
100% accurate.
And, you know, to a much lesser degree, having a team and having people around you that are willing to kind of fight for each and every day and fight for each and every pound, it just really, it makes the whole process that much easier.
Helps with the competitive nature of it, and then also the push.
And it was huge for me. So I realized that I was going to have to figure out, which I didn't have money to do so and didn't have resources to do so, but I'm like, I need to figure out a way to start my own gym. I need to be able to have a gym where we're all lifting together, we're all doing some of this kind of West Side stuff together, and where, we're building competition. You know, I'll walk over to somebody and say, hey, you know, John just did that weight you just did.
Just a little bit of shit talk.
25 times, you know? And and you get up and you're like, I don't give a shit what John did, but
you
next
do.
week it's in your head, you know?
Yeah, you do.
And then you're trying to press those weights. So, yeah, it was a huge thing. I mean, I remember like dreaming of, you know, I'd drive by like a storage unit or drive by a building, and I was like, it'd be great if I could like rent that. Maybe there's somebody that has extra space that I could rent on the cheap. Maybe I could just try to open a storage unit and have people lift there and no one knows about it type
Low
thing.
key.
Yeah, just trying to figure out, you know, these different things. But it wasn't until I used to write for a company called EliteFTS.com, and the company's still thriving, still does really well. Dave Tate runs it. And as somebody that wrote on there and somebody that was lifting and posting their workouts there, I basically just, at one of the end of the threads, I just said, I'm moving to the Sacramento area. If anybody knows of any lifters in the area, it'd be great if I could meet up with some people. And so this guy, you know, he emails me or whatever, he sends me this address, and I think I'm going to like a gym. And I pull up and I'm like, oh my God, it's just like someone's house, you know? And I knock on the door, and the guy's like, oh, I'll open up the garage. Guy opens up the garage. He's got a reverse hyper. He's got a glute ham raise. He's got a squat rack. He has
Stuff you're used to.
Yeah, he's got all this stuff. So I was like, okay, cool. And that's where I started meeting a couple lifters. And it wasn't too long after that where I was coaching at the high school. And see, there's all these like little connections that just happen.
They compound.
Yeah. You know, you being from Oklahoma and you getting involved in real estate and you being in the military, it's these cyclical things like, oh, where do you know that guy? Oh, this guy used to, you know, he was in the Marine Corps with me. And, oh,
exactly.
How do you know this guy? Oh, it's somebody I knew back in Oklahoma. Or
That's how life works. That's how business works. How everything works.
It's just it's like that everywhere you go, you know. And so when I was coaching, I went to a local gym that was just starting, and I'm kind of checking out this place. It's just a building. There's nothing in there yet. They are doing construction in there, and I'm kind of peeking around and stuff. I'm like, I probably shouldn't go in there, but I want to check it out.
Yeah.
So I kind of like poke in a little bit more, and this guy sees me, and the guy's pretty jacked, you know. And the guy's like, hey man, he's like, come on in. He's like, what you looking for? I was like, well, I heard there's going to be a gym here. I was like, it's really cool. And he's like, oh, what do you do? I was like, I coach at the high school. And he's like, oh my God, my son plays football over there. I was like, well, maybe I'm coaching your son.
Yeah,
I don't even
what's his
know
name?
It, you know?
Yeah.
And his son was a little younger, so I wasn't coaching his son quite yet. But anyway, we got talking, and he's like, I'm thinking about equipment, but I don't know what equipment to get. I'm like, I work for EliteFTS.com. I'm like, they have all the best stuff. They got the glute ham, the reverse hyper. And
Look at that.
I'm thinking of myself.
Yeah, what you want in the gym.
Yeah, exactly. And so he goes, you know, he's like, I haven't purchased anything for the gym just yet. I have some of my old equipment. I'm going to move from my farm, and I'm going to move it here just to kind of get things started. But he's like, yeah, we want to get some of the best stuff. And so I went to him a couple days later I was trying to be like modest, you know, and just get like a couple things. And he's like, is this all you need? You know, he's like, wouldn't you need more? Because you're talking about maybe a powerlifting team and all this stuff. And,
dang.
And I was mentioning to him, I'd imagine a lot of the football kids would come over here if we had cool equipment and, you know, if we had some high level stuff. And I already have 5-6 guys that I work out with that would probably love to train here too. And so, we went over some pricing and stuff, but he was like, no, he's like, don't you need more than that? You know? And I was like, well, if you really want me to come back with, you know, like the deluxe version,
yeah, I will.
I was like, I'll do that. So the next day it was like a deadlift platform, a mono lift, you know, which is big ass like squat rack that you barely see anymore. But we just got all the bells and whistles. We got all the stuff. We got all the barbells. The barbells are so expensive.
Sick.
We got like 10 different styles of barbells.
Oh, wow.
Tons of weights, just all top of the line stuff. And then that whole thing, that whole gym ended up going sideways not too long after. And I did work there for a while. I was training people there, and I was there like signing people up and all kinds of stuff like that for a while. And then all of a sudden wasn't getting paid anymore. And I was like,
From that gym?
Yeah, and I have my son, I have a family, and so, I go to the guy and I basically just say, I don't want this to turn into like any sort of like, me taking like
Animosity or anything.
Yeah, or me taking any like legal action against you or whatever. But it's kind of clear like you guys don't have the money to pay.
He just stopped paying.
He just stopped paying.
Yeah.
Didn't tell me or anything like that. So I said, I would like to buy some of that equipment that we ended up getting, and I would like to just take that stuff out of here.
Sure.
And I think that's a fair trade since I've done a bunch of work for you that you haven't paid for and stuff. And so we negotiated a bit. I knew the pricing of the stuff. He didn't know the pricing of the stuff. So I had the upper hand there.
Solid advantage.
And I took some of that equipment and just started my own gym. And that's basically when Super Training Gym started.
Okay.
And the idea behind, having the free gym and all that kind of stuff, that's where that started, is because I was having so many different issues with figuring out my own finances and my own life. And I recognized that this is a huge issue amongst kind of these starving artist powerlifters.
I like bodybuilders, same concept.
Yeah, bodybuilders, powerlifters, like
spending all their money on things.
Yeah, you're so into this one thing that you just don't function well otherwise.
Anything else? Yes.
And you barely have a job or barely figuring things out.
Barely being. I mean, you can eat because that's all you're focused on. But there's nothing
Right.
else.
Right,
Yeah.
and so that was the thing for me. I was like, I want to be able to try to, make a gym that's free. So at first, I couldn't actually make the gym free. I tried to make the gym as
There's no way. I mean, just from a business standpoint,
inexpensive as I could, right?
like break even.
And then there was many years later, I created the Sling Shot, and then I had the ability
Right.
to make the gym free, and the gym was free for about 10 years. And we don't have the Super Training Gym anymore, but that was something that it really assisted and really helped me get stronger, because we had a group of people that just had that like-minded mentality of anything and everything to get as strong as we possibly can.
I love that, dude. I love that. And it makes me think, though, of like how much you've changed your training and your physique over the period of this cycle we talked about. Tell me more about that.
Yeah. I mean,
the documentary, you look totally right. You're younger,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah.
We're all aging here. We can't prevent that. But you were more powerlifting.
Yeah.
You didn't care so much about other things at the time, which I think I've had my own fair share of. Like, there's seasons of certain things you're doing.
Oh, we used to always make fun of
The
mirrors and
bodybuilders and the powerlifters are definitely not on the
trying
same
to
team
look
here.
good. Like, what are you doing
Right.
trying to look good? Like, we'd make fun of each other.
And then CrossFit came along and gave powerlifters and bodybuilders someone to make fun of.
That's right. Yeah, it joined everybody
But
together,
secretly, like, as we get older, we're kind of like, damn, that would be nice to be able to run like that.
I know.
And lift like that.
And be able to do those pull-ups.
And those muscle ups.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, and then plus people look great too.
they do look
CrossFitters-
good, right?
CrossFitters they look awesome.
They do.
The main reason for me to sort of downsize, I think you're just seeing it from everybody. I mean, it doesn't matter which
Health.
power lifter or which person you used to follow, whether it's me or Stan Efferding or Matt Winning or these other high level lifters that were really doing it and were lifting massive weights. It's not like you can't continue to lift massive weights. I think that you could. I believe that I was built to do it indefinitely, really, but I don't want to do it anymore. I did it the way that I wanted to do it, and I feel like I maximized it. So for me to want to do it at any lesser capacity, competitively, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
I could maybe see entering competition. I'm 49. I could see maybe entering a competition when I'm 52, just to some goal, and maybe just
for fun.
get a good deadlift for fun or something.
Yeah.
Just train for something and be like, yeah, I pulled 500 pounds or something like that.
That's sick, yeah. At 52, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But the heavy lifting and stuff is gone, and the not caring at all about my not just appearance. It wasn't even just the appearance. It was just health.
Really?
Just not really caring about. It was like,
So the health came up first before you were like, I'm not liking who I see in the mirror, like from an aesthetic standpoint. There's probably no doubt that you like the way you looked more so when you got lean and looked right.
yeah, of course. But like, I think getting blood work done and things like that were really important. So, the blood work stuff now is real popular.
Super.
And as of, maybe 4 or 5 years ago,
It was not when you were around.
Yeah.
Definitely, even when I was started, like, that wasn't a thing.
So we're starting to gain a lot of traction, but, Stan Efferding is a good friend of mine, and he and I communicated a lot. And you can even go back on my YouTube channel. So check out Super Training 06 YouTube channel, and you'll see it's all documented.
Sick.
Stan and I talking about a lot of this stuff when I was 280 and 290, and I got all the way up to like 330 pounds.
That was your peak?
My ankles were like real swollen. They were red. I had edema. So if I push my finger in on my leg, then it would just stay like that, which is like that happens to people sometimes on like flights, or happens if you like break your leg, but it's not normal.
It's not normal.
It's not supposed to be
No.
there. It's really bad sign for your heart health, right?
Right.
And I had high blood pressure. My red blood cell count was high.
Your hemoglobin, everything's through the roof.
Everything's through the roof. Iron is high. So now I have thick, sludgy blood, and this is a message for everybody. Like, get all this stuff checked. And if you have that in combination with high blood pressure, well, now you have a pressurized system that's trying to push blood that's thick. Your blood.
Your heart is just working.
It's not supposed to be
off.
thick like that. It's like you need an oil change. And so I started doing just some of the little stuff, like changing my sleeping habits. Like I used to go to bed like pretty late. And so I just like, okay, why not just go to bed a little bit more when my wife goes to bed?
Yeah.
Things like that. And then I was eating, really shitty, usually later in the evening, and that got cut out, or some of it got cut out in the beginning from mainly just going to bed earlier.
Yeah.
So it's like these little things started to cause this cascade of things to just get healthier. My like A1C, which I don't even remember if they were exactly checking that, but I know my fasting insulin and glucose and stuff like that was high. And so we worked on all this stuff, and then I would work on it for like maybe 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
Get another blood panel done, and it'd be like, that's a little better, but all this other stuff is still screwed up, And so let's work on that now. Then we work on that, and then it's like, okay, we got that recalibrated, but then maybe something else spikes back up,
Did sleep make that big of a difference?
Oh, sleep, yeah, sleep is huge.
For how thick your blood was, I mean that's new to me.
Yeah,
honestly.
I mean,
that's really cool.
So your red blood cell count can be high if, I don't know the exact cause of it, but it's you're hypoxic, you are, you're lacking oxygen, you have sleep apnea, when you have something like sleep apnea, and so all the extra weight on me, I'm basically going through the night, barely breathing.
Yeah.
And I think
Did you use a CPAP at the time, or is that even around?
I tried to use CPAP. It was really hard to get used to.
Yeah.
And I think that's the case with a lot of people. And so I was like, that was actually a huge factor for losing weight. Was once I saw what the extra sleep was doing for me, Stan was like, well, extra sleep won't do you any good now, because he's like, it did in the beginning, but it won't do you any good now, because now you're getting like the amount of sleep that you need, but you're not getting the quality sleep that you need. And he's like, your only option is to, really wear a CPAP. And so I tried the CPAP. That shit didn't really work well for me. And I'm like, you know what? Screw this CPAP and screw all these other techniques and all this shit. I'm fat.
Let's just fix the problem.
I'm huge and I'm fat. I'm over 300 pounds. And
Damn.
So I started to lose weight, and I was just like, okay, when I weighed 330, the goal was to get to 310. When I weighed 310, the goal, every like 20, 30 pounds.
Yeah.
And then every time I lost weight, I'd kind of say to myself, okay, you can only gain, you can gain a little bit of weight back. Like if you go off plan or whatever, not a big deal. But you can't gain more than 10 pounds.
Okay.
So that whole time, I just kept going down, down, down. And it took a long time. A lot of people ask, like, how long did it take to go from 330 to 220?
Yeah.
And it basically took like a decade. And the reason why it took so long is because it took that long for me to feel steady about it, for me to feel good, for me to feel like, not good about it, but for me to be like, okay, that monster, that dragon, he's slayed. That guy is not coming back.
Right.
Because my appetite was different in terms of the food selection, and my appetite was just really high. And at first it was,
Well, you're lifting so heavy too.
at first it was that. At first it was like, I just want to lift as heavy as possible. And so I remember I would tell my wife, like, good night, I'd kiss her good night, and then I'd go down and have my second or third dinner.
Well, you're just crushing calories.
Yeah,
you
and
need
then I
'em.
would, and then I would have like a Ben and Jerry's, and I felt like, at the time, I felt like that, like I
Justified, yeah.
I needed that, and I don't know. You can make an argument that I did because I squatted 1,080, benched
Damn.
854, and deadlifted 766. So the numbers are there.
Yeah, the math's there.
You know.
Was there a point though that, like the trajectories on the graph cross, like you're losing weight, and then you significantly start to see the weight that you could lift, your actual power go down?
Yeah, you know, that's when you just shift goals, you know, rather than like focus
Sure, but
on,
you think that someone can be in like, can someone be that strong without being that fat?
Oh, I mean, there's plenty of people.
Maybe not healthily.
There's plenty of people. For myself, I felt like that's what I needed, you know, for me, because
Mass moves mass. Is that the thought process?
yeah, well, I competed at 220 when I was young, even competed at 198 at one point, but then competed at like 242, and I was like, oh, this feels pretty good. Then I weighed like 255 or so and lost weight to compete at 242, and I was really doing really well. But as I just kept gaining weight, the weight on the bar just kept increasing a ton.
So that's what you equated it kind of to.
The weight that I was lifting, yeah, I remember I squatted like 903, and then it seemed like it was like a year and a half later that I squatted 1,080. So for someone that squats 900 pounds, for them to put 180 pounds in their squat in like 18 months is like a huge deal, but it was mainly from weight gain. So people today still ask me, like, you know, what can I do? It's like, holy, you know, hey, look, man, you know, you just want to slap on like about 20 pounds of body weight. It will do a lot for you.
I believe that.
In terms of your strength. Now, obviously, you know, maybe some people want to be more cautious or more careful, but if you're a 16-year-old kid and you're 6'3" and you're 170 pounds,
It's your string bean.
yeah, 190 is a nice goal.
Sure,
maybe
you look good probably still.
Maybe start to really think about even weighing like 200. And if you're someone that's an athlete, as long as you're still doing your athletic stuff, as long as you're still doing your sport, there shouldn't really be hardly any loss of athleticism. And you actually might even be faster because you might be stronger, back to that relative strength.
Yeah.
The relative strength can be hit like by like losing a bunch of weight, but it also can be hit by like weighing an optimal amount of weight,
Yeah.
as opposed to something like a VO2 max, which I think is way overhyped, because VO2 max just, the higher that someone's VO2 max is, it just means they're really skinny. And as we said in powerlifting, there's no skinny champions.
That makes sense. I have a question for you on your expertise, as I have hiccups on this podcast, but so bear with me.
What's going on with all this?
I don't know. I don't know. It's annoying. It's the second day. So
Need mouth to mouth?
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
the Heimlich?
Yeah, the Heimlich. That'll do better.
I'm not sure.
I'll just throw up. So I got a buddy of mine that his kid plays football. So like you coached in the day, and the coach tells him all the time, you go eat a 5-pack of burgers, go put on the weight. And then you get some kids with like titties and like soft guts and like, and so, but Matt, what you said also plays into this, right? So shout out to Cooper if you watch this. Like he came to me, he was like, hey man, his dad was in the Marine Corps with me. And so his dad ended up losing a bunch of weight. He was a cop after he got out of the Marine Corps, lost a ton of weight, was feeling confident, like changed his life. Because he just kind of got fat after the Marine Corps and then totally lost the weight, was like a new man. And his son sees him doing this, but his coach is telling him to eat bags of burgers. So it's conflicting. His son asked me, he called me, and I was like, dude, you want to get ripped? I'll show you how to do it. Like I can show you how to lean up, but just be smart because where you're at and what age you're at. Kid's like 15. And so my question to you is that the right way to do it, just to like as the coach? Because I'm against it. I'm like, I think there's a lot of self-confidence issues that come up with being fat and overweight, especially for boys and for women, for girls. So I think there's a balance. And so his dad, Chris, and I talked, and I was like, there's also something to be said about the kid that's fast, right? If you're a lineman and you just want to get heavy and you're just pushing people, I don't think that's the best advice from a coach to just tell kids to go pack on weight. from a lot of other standpoints, maybe for the winning team style. I mean, I don't know. What's your take on any of that?
Well, I think that when people are talking about people gaining weight, when a coach is thinking like, you need to gain weight, drink some milk, and
Yeah, that's what they'll tell them after the game, right? Go, everybody go eat a burger and get a milkshake.
And they're not really thinking about like the kid accumulating a bunch of body fat. But
Exactly.
That's what's going to happen.
But that's kind of what they're asking them to do.
That is going to. It kind of is what they're asking them to do, and I don't think that that's a great route. I think, you know, what I was alluding to earlier about a kid, you know, trying to maybe weigh like 20 pounds more. I do think you do have to be careful with how quickly you do that. Like in my case, I did it fast, but it was like so specific to the sport that I was in.
100%.
That I was addicted. I'm addicted to it. You know, I'm
Yeah,
addicted to
well,
the
completely
sport.
different from a kid that's in maybe
And it's very extreme.
freshman or something.
And I'm doing a lot of other shit that's, you know.
Yeah, of course. There's all of PEDs that come involved into this, which is completely different than some kid that's natty.
100%. And I think that what I sometimes share with parents is, you know, between the parent and I, look, they have their whole life to be fat. They have their whole life to make bad choices. But while they're 3 and while they're 2 and while they're under your roof and they're 9, 10, 12, 13, and they're still not driving themselves to the store yet, you know, provide them with nutrient-rich foods, provide them with good nutrient-dense foods. And yes, there's going to be a case where, you know, one child is maybe a little bit more on the thin side, and maybe that kid, you know, needs the full fat milk or something
Sure.
like that to actually like literally gain a little bit of weight. And then you want to try to like, you know, maybe monitor that and make sure they're not gaining like a bunch of fat.
Sure.
But the truth is that nobody knows how to do this stuff better than a bodybuilder.
100%
And
agree.
bodybuilders, they don't really change. Bodybuilders don't change what they eat.
Nope.
They
It's
eat
boring.
chicken and rice and broccoli.
You play with carbs.
When they
lift heavy.
prep for a contest, okay, maybe they switch to chicken thighs. Whoa.
Yeah.
Maybe they throw in a little extra steak.
You drop
But
fat.
But what's not known all the time about bodybuilders is that bodybuilders are still meticulous about the fat grams.
100%. I mean,
They-
that's all I went down the rabbit hole of bodybuilding side.
They don't just a bodybuilder that's going to bulk, right? They are, depending on the person. I know there's
Lee
extremes.
Priest is
I
a
know.
great example
Oh
of the
my
dirty
God.
bulking. And I dirty bulked when I was young because I was a hard gainer. I graduated high school like 145 pounds, went to the Marine
It
Corps.
works
I did
sometimes.
wrestling. I was like, I need burgers and pizzas.
Eating kind of whatever can work for some people sometimes.
But it's not good for the kid that's already got fluff on him, right? You know?
especially the kid that it's like he wants to like gain weight, but
My argument is that they
in the
look
sport-
better if they lost weight at certain points.
yeah, it's I guess what you're touching upon is actually a really good point, because the kid just needs to be stronger. You know, he's getting knocked back. You know, maybe not this kid we're talking
Sure,
about
sure,
specifically,
sure.
but like
The coach is thinking get heavier and you'll be able to hold the line or do football better.
the hardest hit I've ever had in my entire life, the hardest I've ever been hit
In football.
was by Steve Smith, who played for the Baltimore Ravens.
What did he weigh? I don't even know this guy.
165 pounds?
God,
170?
exactly. So, and I come from wrestling, cross country, and track, and then the Marine Corps. So I come from way more from an athletic and then
Got
bodybuilding
destroyed.
side.
He runs like a 4.240.
You can get smoked by those guys. Exactly.
Destroyed.
Yes.
Completely destroyed. And it was deservingly so, because I think like a few weeks before that, he caught the ball over the middle, and it was like 8-on-8 or something, or 6-on-6 or whatever the hell we were doing. We were doing like a drill in practice. He was on my team. He was a teammate.
Yeah.
We played at Santa Monica City College, and he's coming over the middle. The quarterback, hangs him out to dry. I'm linebacker, and so I just I didn't mean to like go for his ribs, but they were there, and so
Yeah.
I hit him pretty good. And then it was like 3 weeks later, he just knocked me silly. And I just remember getting up and just being like, he's like, "Oh, I got you." And I was like, "Holy shit." And I'm just trying to pretend nothing happened.
Yeah,
But
of course.
in-
You're 160.
in the locker room, I'm sick to my stomach. But I agree. I think that the kid being stronger and quicker is probably going to serve him better than just gaining a bunch of body fat.
Exactly.
There is a small case of like, okay, the kid's a tight end and he's just light and he's trying to get a Division I scholarship and he just like literally needs to be heavier. There's a case of like, again, it's the same thing with offensive linemen, defensive linemen. They just literally, they kind of almost need the stat of the extra weight to get them sort of selected easier. But that's like rare, and that's like we're talking about someone that's already, hyper talented.
Right.
they're already kicking a lot of ass. It's just like they just need to weigh a little bit more just because they have to fit the norm of what the coaches are used to.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good example, and kind of going back to the pull-up example too, because if you say packing on 20 pounds could make you stronger, packing on 20 pounds and trying to get the same person to do pull-ups wouldn't necessarily equate, right?
If the person,
Because it's strength to mass ratio.
Yeah, if somebody gained 15 pounds of fat in their pursuit to gain 20
and made
pounds,
5 pounds of muscle, yeah.
Yeah, and they gain 5 pounds of muscle is still nice, but the 5 pounds of muscle is probably not going to cut it to move your body weight around the way that you think. I love a lot of the stand efforting type stuff on this.
I do too.
I think monster mash, like I would just tell Cooper,
ground beef,
monster mash, brother. Like,
yeah.
Maybe get the 85-15 or the 93-7. People don't understand 93-7 lean ground beef still has 32 grams of fat per pound.
They don't understand that.
And most people that are going to exercise religiously are probably going to, most men are probably going to get along with 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds of meat a day.
Yep.
Maybe there's some eggs thrown there. Maybe there's some whey protein. So maybe they don't hit 2 pounds of meat every day, but
sure.
Somewhere between 1 pound and 2 pounds of meat. So now, if you're to have 2 pounds of 93.7, you just had like 60-something grams of fat, which isn't bad, but that's your whole day's worth of fat. If you're somebody if your goal is to like have a 6-pack, good luck having a 6-pack with eating eating more than like 100 grams of fat.
Exactly.
You're gonna have a very hard time.
And even a smaller
carbs are super low.
Like I'm 5'8", right, and I'm 188 pounds right now, or 185 pounds. I would eat less fat than that for sure, substantially, if I was in order to lose weight.
What usually works for you, like under 50?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep,
that's
under 50. I've been as low as 30, but then you have to watch your cognitive levels, you have to watch your energy, your libido, and all that shit goes to trash.
And you can do 30, you can do that, but you're doing it every day.
Correct, but if you run a stint of it, and then you can kind of carb cycle back up, and then you can, if you run fats about 50 for myself, and you keep your calories at about 2,000 or 1,800.
You have to go out of your way, though.
Yeah.
Right? You have to go way out of your way to make sure you hit that. If you have one sandwich from like a Beach Hut deli or something like that, and it has, even if you get it with no mayo,
you have to be extremely intentional. 100%.
You get turkey. If it has just even slices of cheese, there's 6 grams of fat in a couple ounces of cheese. But there's protein in there too. But
I feel you have to be that intentional in order to get to the goal. And when you get to the goal, you can probably go more towards a maintenance macro style. And you can be a little bit more like I would operate my life probably on a 70-30 split. Like 70% of the time I'm on point.
This year I tried, I was like, you know what? For the holidays, I'm going to be a little bit more relaxed. That's
what I did this year too.
I need to change my diet anyway. I need a surplus of calories. My blood work, again, I try to base stuff off of my blood work. I don't always do a great job of it, but I try to base stuff off of my blood work. My inflammatory markers and certain things, they were just like off. And I'm like, I'm burning the candle at both ends. So I'm like, this year, I'm just gonna relax and I'm gonna eat a little bit of desserts, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit extra. I'm not even worried right now. I'm not on a particular diet. I'm not with a particular tribe. I'm not, with keto. I'm not with carnivore. I'm not on the sugar diet. I'm not in these many different worlds that I've messed around in. And it screwed me. And like
spit you for a loop?
Yeah, getting the fat back off is like super annoying.
I
feel really good with where I'm at right now. I feel nice, but
it was fun to eat it like that.
It was, but I'm like scratching my head. I'm like,
I'm doing the same thing right now.
But I'm like, okay, hold on a second, you fat bastard. You actually took about 3 months. You took about 3 months to sort of go in this direction. And I did like it. I mean, I felt like I got a little bit bigger. I felt like I got a little bit stronger. But I think, as we age and stuff, packing on fat and stuff like that is something you got to be really, I don't want to give anybody, a disorder or anything like that, but like you have to be you got to be careful about it. And I think that the way I used to think about powerlifting was I'm doing myself a disservice if I don't still squat, bench, and deadlift. Since this is like, I basically have a trade, like a mechanic or someone that's an editor or someone that's a musician.
For sure.
I have a trade, and so I kind of owe it to myself and even owe it to the fans to like follow through on this shit. Like necessarily have to power lift my whole life. But I do think it's important that I bench, squat, and deadlift at least a little bit. It doesn't matter if it's a plate, it doesn't matter what it is. I still should be doing it because it's part of me, right?
Yeah.
And when you get yourself in good shape and you get yourself lean, I think it's the same thing. Like, stay dedicated to yourself.
Absolutely.
And sort of almost F what everybody else thinks. I'm not saying that I will like never do that again, because there were parts of it that made sense, and it did make a lot of the figuring out of the holidays. It made it a lot
It's easier for family and travel and eating.
Yeah.
Sure.
And
do you drink alcohol? Occasionally?
Rarely.
Yeah.
But if I was to show people like the change that I made, they would be like,
They wouldn't say.
you didn't even eat anything exciting, dude. They'd be like, they'd be like, what's
It's boring.
F? And so that is why I really did reconsider, though. I did think about it. I was like, maybe I won't do that to that degree again, because it just feels like I cheated on myself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It doesn't
I can
feel
see that.
it does. I don't feel bad about it, but I feel like I did myself a disservice.
I've done the same thing for quite a few years. I'll just like completely let off the gas, eat what I want, drink if I want, do the things through the holidays. Usually about November, we got Thanksgiving, and then we just creeps right through. And it ends up being more time than I probably should. That's always what happens, right? But
Yeah, because it would be late November to January 1, and you'd be done.
yeah,
That's not really that long a time.
no, but
it
you both know
extends.
that it always extends, right?
And
Or
the
the fat, or it takes a lot
Halloween
harder.
candy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You nailed it. It probably starts to knock. Yeah, exactly. So that's right. And I kind of like the excitement of turning it back up. Does that make sense? Like locking back in. Like there's something about like, oh, okay, it gives me a mission again. I don't know. You know what I mean?
I
Like,
agree. I agree with that. Like, getting locked in feels amazing, but it's weird though, because
it's like, you fat bastard. I look in the mirror and I'm
Well,
like,
you
then I'm
get-
just like, destroy this. Let's do this.
it's weird though. You get locked in, you're like, what was I doing back there?
Yeah.
Why was I
True.
What
That's
was
so
I-
true.
What was I doing?
Why was I slacking again? Right? Why did I let off the
Yeah,
gas?
how did I have friends that, they really struggle with their weight, and a few of them are obese. And they get that a lot.
Yeah.
Where they'll be like locked in, and they'll be texting me like, "Oh man, I'm down 30, I'm down 20, I'm down another 20, I'm down." They're all fired up, and they don't hear from them for a little bit. And then I check
gain
back
the
in
20.
with them, and they sort of have gained some weight back, and kind of just these, they get locked in, and then they kind of get kicked back
Yeah.
out. And I just try to communicate with them like, what do you think triggered you to get locked in? And what do you think triggered you to be back out?
True.
And they don't know, and I don't know.
No.
But it's an interesting conversation, because you're like, I mean, you do wake up one day and decide, but how come you don't decide earlier?
True.
Why do you decide a
That's a good
little
point.
bit too late?
Yeah, I think that for me, I don't know, it's the holidays, and then I don't think it's for everybody like that, because I'm not an easy gainer. Like if I was a more overweight person, or maybe had the tendencies to be overweight, I've never been that person. So I'm a hard gainer. So for me, getting lean technically wasn't as difficult. Putting on the muscle took me the longest time.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I think some of the problem with some of this is it's
Well, it's so easy to get fat too. God, with the food that's out there.
it's also like our goal is not really defined very well.
Great point. You can't hit a target you can't see.
Right? And so you're kind of like, I want to be like 10% body fat. You're like, well, what does that mean?
Well, nobody really even knows that they all think they're 10% body fat when they're not.
Yeah, and then, but like Dorian Yates has famously said, like, who cares if you're 8% body fat if you don't look good?
Oh,
And
I love his methods.
You could
yes.
have like, a physique that still isn't. I mean, you could be 8% body fat. You can be all sunken in the face, in the eyes.
Yeah,
You
Skeletor.
could look 10 years older than you did a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
You could look like you haven't slept in a long time. So it's like, or you get down to a certain percentage and you're like fragile.
Right.
You go to run one day and you tear something in your groin, and then 2 weeks
Because you're
later,
too lean, you don't have enough hydration.
2 weeks later, you go to do something, you tear something up in your knee. And,
True.
All this stupid shit can happen to you.
Right, that same could be said with being too far overweight, right? You see people that are obese, and then they end up breaking so many things or hurting their joints for so much.
I think it's hard to forget sometimes that you're kind of you're saying the word fun is a weird word, but like you are kind of you're doing it for fun. You're entertaining yourself in some way. And just the other day, you know, I just posted on my Instagram. I was just like walking, and I'm like, I'm just gonna post a little bit of this because I do talk about walking a lot, but I was like, people need to know. Like, I just took 5 or 6 days off, just walking around Carlsbad and walking some of the stairs there, and there's like ramps and stuff like that. And I'll probably do some running and some sprinting and stuff on the beach tomorrow, since it's been like a handful of days of just kind of having this this downtime.
Yeah.
At the same time, you know, we're talking about, you know, sort of like beating ourselves up a little bit over these situations where maybe we let off the gas a little bit. It's also just, it's important to like treat yourself well.
Right. Right.
It's important to like, you don't necessarily want to train yourself maybe the way that you would train your mom.
Yeah.
But you do want to train and treat yourself the way that you would train and treat someone that you do love, someone that's close to you.
That's a good point.
I think sometimes we just like,
So not blood and guts every time like
bash
Dorian Yates.
Yeah, bash each other over the skull.
True.
Every single time we train.
There's something to be said too. What I said in the house a second ago before we started this is like, as you grow, as you get older, as the target changes or moves, you know, I think that's what's been fun for me. So what's kept me, and this is something I tell everybody, and I would like your opinion on it, but what's kept me into fitness so long in any aspect was, first it was sports, then it was physique for, you know, looking better in my 20s, right? We want to get jacked and stacked in our 20s, looking like Arnold or whatever. And so that got me into that, lifting the weights and doing the thing. And then I got into jiu-jitsu because I was like, well, dang, maybe I should be able to protect myself. And I want to be this tough guy. And I have this image of what your brother talks a lot about in the movie, right? Mm-hmm. It's like this, I grew up in the Arnold era and the movies and the superhero and being a freaking warrior. And so I was like, I need to be not only jacked, but I want to also be able to handle myself. And then the older I got, I was like, dude, CrossFit came out. And so I started doing CrossFit. And I want to be jacked and lean and be able to do all this stuff. So I think the target changes as we get older and what our objectives are. And I think that's okay, but that's also what's kept me excited about it. It's like, I don't know if this ever happened to you. I'm sure it did. It happened to all of us. But it's like when you got that new supplement or that new pre-workout, you're like, I'm in the gym for the next 30 days, baby. Like you're just locked and
You're
excited about it. So whatever you can do to keep yourself on that hamster wheel, I think is the most fun part about it.
I like to look at stuff sometimes as like a cascade of disciplines. So if somebody is like, you know what, I'm gonna wake up tomorrow at 4 o'clock and go on a run. I'm like, that is killer. That is awesome. And you know what? Explore that a bit. See what that's like. Maybe 4 a.m. is a little bit on the crazy side, but maybe it's 5 a.m. Whatever it is.
Sure.
Whatever it is that calls to you. You're getting up earlier and you're doing something different than what you normally do. So you start to have this idea, okay, I'm going to start to wake up at 4 a.m. and get out the door by 4:30 to go on a run. Well, now you start doing that day in and day out, and you're like, okay, I can't go to bed at 11. That's not working, especially with my work schedule and trying to get this 30-minute run in.
Sure.
So then you're like, all right, let me try to go into bed at 10. You start messing around with that for a little bit. And maybe at 10:30 every night or 10 o'clock, you know, that is where you're eating like a bunch of crap, a bunch of junk food. So now you're going to bed a little earlier. You cut out some of that extra junk food that you might be eating. And then you kind of find, all right, well, 10:30, 10 o'clock is still kind of late. I need to get to bed earlier. So it just starts to cause a cascade of disciplines. Then maybe when you run, you're like, man, I feel a lot heavier than I'd like when I'm running. Like I can barely run. I can only run, I can only run a couple hundred meters and I'm out of breath and I have to walk, right? And you walk and you jog and you go back and forth. But then maybe the next day you're like, I'm going to start to have a better diet. And you start to have a better diet. And the better diet is not because you want to be like and flex your abs and stuff, which is still awesome and still cool and still a great goal. But you just want to feel better when you're running and not feel so tired when you're at work because you're waking up early. So then you just kind of start getting on that hamster wheel that you're talking about, and you kind of keep adding to it. And the hamster wheel, it isn't this square that you're trying to, roll yourself in. It's actually becoming a circle where you're getting momentum and you're actually able to move forward because the extra sleep that you're getting and the diet that you're getting are both things that are actually helping the run. And now you're like, oh, okay, cool. The half-hour run feels really good. I ran the whole 30 minutes. I got warmed up and I ran 20 minutes straight. Now maybe you're like, I'd like to run a little further, right? And then that's where you end up earning some of your freedom, because as you said earlier, you kind of become like unchained. You kind of become untethered to the exact rules. Once you know the rules and understand them, now you can kind of, you get a little bit of a leash, and now you can kind of break some of the rules. You still want adherence.
Well, because it gets boring. Certain times things get boring. You get burnt out. When you feel that feeling, like, you know, you start just going through the movements of the gym. If you're just doing gym rat stuff, you might as well change it up, and that's okay, I think. I don't think people really think through that, at least. I mean, that's what I was like. That's why I shifted to CrossFit. Then I do jiu-jitsu, and I would say, sure, would I be better if I mastered one for 20 years? Yes, but would that be as fun or as exciting? I don't know.
I think that I could get just about anybody excited about some form of fitness. I think one of the problems is I think that people, they continually just think about the gym.
Yeah.
And the normal gym setting. And CrossFit did do a good job of like...
They did.
They brought a different gym to the table, because there's nothing in there. It's like it's like there's like bumper plates.
Yeah.
And some barbells and some places to do like pull-ups, and you're like, well, what am I going to do in that place?
I like that too.
And it's like, well, you better learn how to do some gymnastic stuff, because there's gymnastics rings in there, and there's, you know, body weight stuff, and they just tell you, hey, go outside and go run, or go pull that sled. And you just get different things. But I've found over the years, whether it be a male or a female, or whether it be somebody that is actually like looking to get into fitness, or it's somebody who just has no fitness experience and they're looking to get some exposure to it, if I show them stone lifting, if I show them sandbag lifts, if I show them med ball throws, if I show them kettlebells, you know, just throwing different weights, doing different rotational exercises. Maybe for one person, I just show them straight up bodybuilding, and they dig that, they like it. They're like, oh, that burns. I like that. That feels cool. I want to do that more. Maybe for another person, I show them powerlifting.
Right.
But I think that, you know, and you don't necessarily need a gym, because there's so many athletic moves you can do. With my son today, we went on a walk, and as we're on a walk, I have this ball that I'm bouncing back and forth with him. He's 22, you know, he's not like a little kid. But and then we start throwing this ball back and forth. And I'm like, tell me about he's a filmmaker.
Sweet.
Jake Ross Bell on Instagram.
Yeah.
Plug him.
Hell yeah.
So I throw the ball to him, he catches it, and we're going back and forth, back and forth. So I was like, tell me about your last film. So he starts telling me about his last film. And I'm like, all right, now do it on one leg. And he doesn't, you know, he played sports and stuff when he was young. He works out here and there, but he's not like crazy addicted to all this stuff the way I am. And so he starts describing his last film, starts describing the main character, and we're still tossing the ball back and forth. I was like, this is just something I learned from a friend of mine. The guy's name is Andy Triana. I call him Super Brain.
Sick.
But it's just like a brain drill. You know, it's like I could ask you, hey, how do you load your gun? You know, or what gun is it?
We're playing with the ball.
What's the main gun you guys are usually issued? Yeah. And then we throw the ball back and forth. Well, now you're going over the steps, like the safety steps. Like, how do I do this the safest way, right? And you're on one foot. All of a sudden, if you get to a spot that you don't have like locked in there that well, you'll lose your balance.
Whoa.
Yeah, your equilibrium will get a little funky.
That's wild.
At that time, but you probably wouldn't, because you probably do have that stuff locked in there pretty good. But it's kind of when you get to the and, ers, and ums, when you're thinking, where you kind of get a little stumbly. But my point in bringing that up is there's so many different things we can do.
Absolutely.
And you can just gamify the stuff. The great Ido Portal, I don't know if everybody knows that name, but he's kind of even before Kelly Starrett famously with all the mobility and different things he's brought to the table. But Ido Portal, take a stick, just like a half height broomstick or something like that, and I'll hold it in front of you. I'll have it touching the ground. It could be like a baseball bat. It's probably a better analogy. Take the baseball bat and I just flick it that way, and then you catch it. And then I flick it this way, and you catch it. And then I flick it towards you, and you catch it. And now I flick it away. I flick it towards me, and now you have to like
come after.
You have to grab it, right?
Yeah.
To, like, and And how are you going to do that? Are you going to do it tense? Are you going to do it like relaxed
Smooth,
and just
yeah.
and be, because you could be smooth with it. You could go after it with everything you got.
True.
Now we can even do something. I could say, I could start going this way, and I could start saying right, meaning like grab it with your right. So
Yeah.
I'm going.
So I have
I'm
to go
going-
across.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I'm making you go across.
Sure, sure.
So these like little brain games, or even something I did a drill the other day with my videographer, and we just did single leg hops. I'm like, just do single leg hops, and the only rule is you can't touch anything, and you just got to stay on that leg and just do a minute.
That's cool.
And
Okay.
you switch to the other side. Your legs are on fire.
I bet.
It's completely nuts.
For a full minute?
Yeah, for a
Yeah.
full minute. And then you were mentioning like surfing. I mean, there's so
Yeah,
many
yeah,
other things.
exactly.
Go out and do a
Jiu-jitsu,
sport,
surfing,
throw a frisbee.
skating. I still skate with my
There's
kids.
just so many different options, and yes, there's some that like are going to lead to like more muscle growth, and there's certain things that
Sure.
you're not going to get like insanely muscular per se from jiu-jitsu, but maybe
No.
if you haven't done it, or maybe you haven't had a lot of activity, you'll probably get better muscle results than you're getting now if you're
True.
not really doing
Depends
much
on
of
the
it.
individual, right?
Right.
Right. And then sometimes those muscles definitely, when you do take athletics versus aesthetics, and they do you a disjustice depending on your objective, right?
And it's more more,
Having big shoulders looks really cool in the mirror, but it's not the best when you're surfing.
it's
Having
like
big muscles on the jiu-jitsu mat, your oxygen's just completely depleted.
useful and functional.
Can I
right?
grab the hell out of somebody in a gi and yank the shit out of them? And is it cool? And is it like a good skill? And maybe I use that to my advantage when it comes to grappling? Yeah, but if I peter out in the next 30 seconds, then I'm done anyway.
Those are some weird things I do think about often. I know Jim Wendler once said that you bodybuild the upper body and you athlete the lower body.
Oh, I
I
never
always
thought
thought that was kind of interesting because, like, you don't need these big giant wheels to like lug you around them. Some athletes have them sort
Yeah.
of naturally from doing sprints. They got a big old butt and big
Yeah.
hamstrings
Oh,
and stuff like that.
buddies that have good, can barely fit cowboy boots around their calves,
a lot of times.
You have big calves, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of times really skinny, thin legs, and these legs make it really. I did the Boston Marathon. It's like good
That's
luck
crazy.
trying to lug these things.
But a
around.
lot of times those are the guys that have a hard time losing weight,
Right,
like physical appearance weight,
right, exactly.
So,